Okay, we're so happy to be here today to talk to you about voting. Our first slide it says Disability Rights Rhode Island. Kate and Jeff shout out, get out and vote. So our plan right now is to introduce ourselves. My name is Kate and I'm from Disability Rights Rhode Island. And I just love to talk about voting and to help people get involved with voting. And I'm here with my friend Jeff. Jeff, will you introduce yourself?
My name is Jeff, and do I'm part of the voting shout out, and of course, from Advocates in Action.
Wonderful. Now we can go to our next slide. So this slide says voting is a great way to speak up. It is how we choose our leaders. And we have some graphics here. One says disability voters, our rights, our needs, our lives. And another one says vote, and it has a graphic of a person in a wheelchair. And here we wanted to talk a little bit about choosing leaders. There are lots of ways to choose leaders. Jeff, what comes to mind for you? What are some of the things you think about when you want to choose a leader when you're getting ready to vote?
I like to choose someone who has experience.
Yes, that's a great thing. Someone who has experience. Other things people can think about is whether the leaders have good ideas for policies that will help us in our lives. Let's move to our next slide. This one says bright and bold, register to vote. So, what does that mean? What to register to vote? Can you tell folks about that, Jeff?
It means you fill out a form.
Jeff is exactly right. When you register to vote, you're signing up to vote. So that gets you on the list of people who can vote. And you have to fill out a form and give it to the voting people in your city or town. And so registering to vote means signing up to vote. All right, let's move to our next slide. So this slide has a lot of information about elections and deadlines. It says to vote in the primary election on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. The last day you can register is Sunday, August 11th. So there are some really important elections coming. And Jeff, what can you tell everybody? What's important about this election season that's coming up?
This year is a presidential election.
Yes, yes. So we'll be voting for lots of different leaders in Washington, D.C. and locally. And also this is a presidential election. Let's move to the next slide, which has some more deadlines. So to vote in the general election on November 5th, people have to register by Sunday, October 6th. And so for both of these elections, if you register to vote once, you will be signed up and you do not have to register again. You only have to re-register if you move or something changes. So it's a great idea for people to look into it now and find out if you're registered to vote now, or if any changes need to be made, like your address, to make those now. Actually, we didn't talk too much about this, Jeff, but I have it in my notes to talk about the different ways that people can vote. There are 3 different ways in Rhode Island. Do you remember any of those, Jeff?
Yes, by mail, at the polls, or
The other way is early voting. So there's
early.
a way to vote early before election day at most of the time at city and town hall. So that's great. So as you get ready for these elections, you can figure out how and where you're going to vote. And that's a great idea. Next slide, please. All right. So Jeff, if people have questions like where to vote, what their voting rights are, any idea who they might call?
So they can call your office.
Yes, they can call Disability Rights Rhode Island, or they can call their local city or town election people called the Board of Canvassers. To do that, you would call your town hall and just ask to talk to the voting people. And they can also call the elections people at the Secretary of State's office. So there are lots of ways to get your questions answered, but you can always call disability rights, Rhode Island. Okay, what's next? Next slide, please. This slide talks about voting rights, and I'll just tell everybody what it says. Your rights: the right to assistance, right to privacy and independence, a right to accessible polling places, a right to accommodations, and a right to file a complaint. These are all voting rights that people with disabilities have. And Jeff, I had a question for you on this. So, how do you vote privately and independently, even though you are blind and you're not able to see the ballot?
I use the express vote. It tells me all the candidates that I am can choose to vote for.
Very cool. So the machine, the express vote, will read the ballot to you and help you mark the ballot, right?
Correct.
Excellent. Okay, let's move to our next slide. So this is our closer. This slide says, remember, self-advocacy means speaking up. Use your vote to make a difference about things that are important to you. And again, it says that if people have questions, they can contact Disability Rights Rhode Island. So that is what we wanted to share today for our little mini shout out. Please contact me if you have questions or would like to request a training before election season. And Jeff, do you have any final words for our friends?
Your vote counts. That's basically it.